The city of Detroit declared bankruptcy July 18th, and there's been much ruminating on the reasons for the collapse into dereliction of what was once the Paris of the West. Detroit was actually a strong candidate for the Summer Olympics in 1968. The ruminating, so far as mainstream publications are concerned, was severely handicapped by our country's racial neurosis, which sent respectable commentators off in all directions, searching for explanations that would excuse them from mentioning the R word. Among conservative commentators, it was popular to blame liberalism, leading some impertinent souls to ask which bastion of liberalism would be the next to implode. Burlington, Vermont, perhaps? Or Portland, Oregon? The decline of the auto industry was another popular culprit. Again, people who'd forgotten to take their blue pills pointed out that Pittsburgh had been at least as hard hit by the decline of big steel, but Pittsburgh is doing fine. There is also the small point that hardly any of the auto plants are actually in Detroit, or have been for decades. Most are outside the city, and most of the people who work in them live outside the city, and that's been the case for decades too. My friend Paul Kersey has written a book about Detroit titled Escape from Detroit, arguing that Detroit was killed by demography, that once it became a black city run by blacks, incompetence, corruption and crime brought Detroit down, as they brought down Camden and Newark, as they are bringing down Birmingham and Atlanta. Paul is probably right. The lesson from Detroit is that blacks can't carry the black underclass. It's too big a proportion of the black population. There is a speculative, but I think quite persuasive, statistical theory called smart fraction theory. It says that for a society to function well, to be stable and prosperous, you need a certain threshold proportion of smart people, which the author of the theory says means IQ 108 or above. If your population's smart fraction is below that threshold, the society won't work. Detroit, it seems to me, illustrates the truth of this theory. All right, but let's try to be constructive here. What are we going to do about it? Next segment.